Hi, we are now doing our section on color theory. So as you know, we already did the lecture. This is your color theory assignment. You will have 5 assignments. The first being a simple color wheel, which we already discussed in the lecture. Secondly, you will also have what's called a value scale that you're going to paint that has various tints and shades. We discussed that. How to make a shade, you add white to something, that becomes a pastel. How to make a tint, you add white. And how to make a shade, you add black. So we're going to do that. That is the second assignment. And then the third assignment is actually taking what you've learned, tints and shades and different values, and you create a more ornate color wheel. Then and these will be with paints. The last, this particular assignment, number 4, this is showing a complementary color scheme. And remember, we talked about colors opposite the color wheel. An analogous color scheme, meaning colors next to each other, like a piece of pie and a color wheel. This you can use markers or colored pencils. So you can have some freedom and create some really interesting combinations. Now finally, we have 5 and 6. Taking that analogous and complementary color scheme a little further to create what we would call a mood board. So you will cut and paste various components on here based on the color theme from your computer. You can print out and paste it on. If you're able to scan this on your computer and put photos, that's great. I won't limit you. But each one has a different component. Number 5 is an analogous color scheme. Remember, think of like all warm colors or think of all cool colors. So you would put a major wall paint or wall covering. So you might find a very interesting wall covering or a color of paint, that's your main color. Some flooring. Now most floorings can be neutral. They don't have to be part of the color scheme. That's okay. We're looking for fabrics and the main components in this analogous color scheme. And then an accent wall cover, a wall paint. Here you would have a major fabric. Let's say that would be your sofa. And here's some accent fabrics, kind of like what you did with this sofa. Maybe some prints that have analogous color schemes, just to create a nice vignette. Also, an accent tile. Maybe that's in your bathroom or in kitchen. And what kind of wood tones are in your the home? And also a piece of artwork and maybe an accessory like a pillow or a rug or a lighting fixture or something that would bring it all together. And you will do that also with a complementary color scheme. Remember, those are colors opposite the color wheel. So red and green, violet and yellow. It could be, blue and orange, but different tones and shades, and it'll make it very successful. So these will be fun, and you'll pretty much either print them or cut those items out from magazines or on your computer. So this will be more computer generated or cut and paste. You don't have to use any art medium. Once again, this is using your colored pencils here, if you have colored pencils. And then these items are more painting. But I will go through a little bit about our mixing our paints. So make sure that you copy all these off on cardstock. That's that heavier paper. If you don't have it at home, just take the Xerox copies and take them to your local copy shop and have them print them on cardstock. You might want a couple of extra in case you mess up. So for our first color wheel, remember all the colors derive from your primary colors. Red, yellow, blue. Those colors will create every one of these colors on the color wheel. So so first you will paint your red, your blue, and your yellow. Then you're going to mix the colors. So when you mix red and you mix yellow, you're going to get your secondary color that we talked about, orange, right here. When you're going to mix your blue and your yellow, you're going to get green. And when you mix the blue and the red together, you're going to get violet. From there, I have directions Then you start to mix the colors next to each other. Your blue and violet, when you mix those together, you get blue violet. When you mix violet and red, red violet, and then orange and red, red orange, and then yellow and green, yellow green, and so forth. So once you're done, try to paint this as neat as possible. And then you're going to create a fantastic color wheel. Once this gets completed, then you're going to go to a little bit more sophisticated color theory, which is creating our different values. We talked about that in color theory. Remember, white is the lowest value, and actually the higher the value, the darker it is. So it goes from white all the way to black. And you will be taking and painting this white. And the best way to go about this is to add one drop, just one drop of black, and paint a light shade of gray. Then you're going to add one more drop of black for the next square. Very gradually add one drop of black all the way till you see what is a gradation of color, going from white to the lightest of gray, all the way to medium grays, to very dark grays, to black. This is what we call our value scale that we discussed in class. Now, to create a tint, I want you to start with the hue. Remember, the hue means the color. It says right here, you're to paint this yellow. Once you paint this yellow, you're to add, one drop of white, and then several drops of white, and then the very lightest drop. And that color of yellow should mimic the very faintest pastel yellow. And it needs to match the value, so it's just really light. Now here we'll do red. You'll continue to add white until you have a pink color. And the pink will be this value of darkness. So you're trying to match this value. So it's kind of a very light gray, but not the lightest. And so you kind of match the value. And this is an eye thing. So trying to create this is about the same lightness as that. Kind of like we discussed about a paint wheel that I have. We designers carry those little paint fan decks, and it shows a whole different colors in the same strip. Same idea. Now down here, you'll create the shade. The shade, take orange. You're going to add a little black, and then more black. Now remember, you don't want to go super dark. You want to keep it to that middle gray darkness. But when you come here to blue and you start adding your black, it should be pretty dark navy blue by the time you get to this end and really match the darker areas here of the values. So you will have this beautiful strip of grays going from white to black. Some beautiful tones that look like beautiful pastels that will get quite light. And then these shades will get darker. So that's creating your shades and your tints. Now once you've mastered that, and now that you know how to mix all your colors, make shades and tints, then you're going to get creative with this beautiful flower. First, the very middle one is the actual hue, the color itself. So this would be violet, this would be red, red, orange, and so forth. Then, as you go into the interpetal, as it says here, you are going to make a tint of that color. So if this were red, then this would be a light pink. Now, on the outer tips, you're going to make a shade of that color. So you're going to add the black to the red, and this will turn out to be burgundy. So this whole thing will show each color in its pure form, a hue, in a tint of that color, and in a shade of that color. So by the time you get done, it'll be a beautiful flower and a very interesting color wheel. So it's basically taking these two, assignments 1 and 2, and kind of combining what you learned to make this beautiful flower color wheel. Once you get done with that, you will proceed to use your markers, creating this one, a complementary color scheme. So I might use oranges and blues to create complementary color schemes. So things that are in the orangey realms and blues. So I have different shades of orange, and then different shades of blue. these would be complementary. So I might, create and have more of a yellow sofa and then create some pillows that are the complementary to orange. At the bottom, you will have analogous, and those would be colors next to each other on the color wheel. So if you have purples, blues, and greens, let's say all those lovely cool colors, that would be analogous. And you would use that and nice, finally make some beautiful vignettes of sofas. And once again, your other two will just be great mood boards, putting together an entire interior. And remember, the flooring and the wood tones can be neutral. Don't worry about trying to make them a color scheme. We're more concerned with your fabrics and your accessories, the artwork, and making sure it all is in keeping for a fantastic looking color palette and schemes. So once you get those done, you'll scan them in and create a slide presentation, just as is outlined in the modules and the assignment. And we have 1 week to complete this, and I'm sure you guys will do a fantastic job. Thanks. Just a quick sample of just the variations. You'll go from light to dark, and from in a tint, you'll go from the true color to the very lightest to match the true color to the very lightest that matches the value. Here we're going to the dark and the dark value.